Okay, before we continue further, I need to stop and make a big distinction between authorization versus authentication. And this can be confusing. I remember the first time I heard about this was on an exam I was doing as an undergraduate student. So let's clear it once and for all. Authentication has the purpose of identifying a user for who they are. A analogy would be if you have your government ID, the purpose of the government ID is to authenticate you for who you are. So the role of authentication is to find a way to identify you and making sure you are who you say you are. On the other hand, you have authorization. Authorization deals with the issue of, do you have access based on who you are? An analogy would be you are who you say you are. However, that does not necessarily mean you can access everything that you need. For example, if you are a customer in a store, you walk into the store, as a customer, you have certain access to the main lobby. However, you don't have access to the back of the store. So not having access to the back of the store means you're not authorized to be in the back of the store. So authentication identifies you for who you are, whereas authorization, knowing who you are, do you have access to certain asset, or do you have access to certain space? Now that we have made the distinction between authorization and authentication, we are going now to make an analogy. OAuth is an authorization framework. It was built to allow access, whereas OpenID Connect itself is an extension on it that allow you to have authentication on top of it. So in other words, when OAuth 2.0 was out, it was built as an authorization framework, and adding the OpenID Connect on top of it gave it the ability to authenticate. Now that I've made the distinction between authentication and authorization, the rest of the videos in this series will continue talking about authentication, and I will be using Keycloak as an example. As such, subscribe to this channel, stay tuned for the next video. I will delve deeper into the authentication portion, and then eventually, as I make more video, we will go into the authorization portion. Thank you, and see you next week.